Here's a quick table of contents. First, I'm going to take you through the materials list. Next, we're going to discuss tools. I'm going to show you the types of knots we're going to be using throughout the project. Then we're going to move on to tying the first separators. And I'm going to show you how to tie off each section. And lastly, I'm going to show you how to finish off your project. Let's go through the materials you will be needing for this project. Here's a short list of materials you will need for this project. I will be using 0.5mm Superlon cord for this project, but I will be going into more detail on where to source the material in the following pages. If you wish to print out this materials list, go to the Materials tab at the bottom of the page. I will be using 0.5mm thick Superlon cord for this project, which is exactly the same as a Ceylon beading cord. Below, I have also listed some examples of other cords that you can use for macrame. I used to work a lot with tie wax cord until I recently made a switch to lawn cord, just because I really like the finish of the lawn cord, and it's actually just as easy to use as tie wax cord. You'll find a list of suppliers under the material section. Here are some examples of the same pattern tied with different types of cord. The first earring was made using Chinese cotton waxed cord, which is the thickest amongst the cords shown here. Only 6-aught seed beads will fit for a pattern that calls for double-threaded sections. The second earring was made using Tex 400 Ceylon cord. This is a little thinner than Chinese waxed cord, but the same rules for beads apply. You could use the Ceylon beading cord, which is very fine and only measures 0.5mm thick. This cord is not listed here, but it is an option. The third earring was made with linhasita, which is just about the same thickness as Tex 400 Ceylon cord, and beads fit the same way. Lastly, my favorite cord, the tie wax cord. This is the thinnest shown on this page and is 0.85mm thick. You can use 8-aught seed beads comfortably in sections of patterns that require you to pass cords through the same bead twice. If you do not want to have to worry about material sourcing, I do offer DIY kits for some of my patterns. You can find them in my Etsy shop. Whilst some Czech beads are of really good quality, I tend to prefer to use Japanese Toho seed beads, not only because their uniformity is much better than the Czech seed beads, but also because their hole diameter is quite a lot larger, which allows for more cords to pass through simultaneously. I have included a suppliers list for cords and beads under the materials list. This is a list that covers some suppliers, some for cords and the others for seed beads. In the first section you will find LON suppliers. I just call it LON because you get Ceylon cord and then you get Superlon cords, which are two different manufacturers, but it's actually the same cord, so I just tend to call it LON cords. There are different suppliers, some are in the US, others are worldwide, or the UK, just depends. And the same goes for seed beads. Japanese Toho seed beads, there's a supplier for the US and there is another for the UK, which also supplies worldwide. In this section I have covered the tools you will need. You will need some sort of surface that will allow you to hold down your work. Don't worry if you don't have a proper macrame board, an ordinary clipboard will work just as well. I really like to use cake foam. It really works well for me because it offers a firm surface to work with while allowing me to pin down my work at the same time. You will need some pins if you're using a foam surface. You will need a needle. This is not really necessary, but I really like to have one on hand because I find it useful to help me undo bad knots. You will need a good pair of scissors to cut your cord. I really like to have a smaller pair of scissors because sometimes the cords at the end of projects can be quite hard to reach. You will need a measuring tape to measure your cords, a pair of long-nose pliers for the findings. Sometimes, but not always, I find it useful to have a wire-bending pair of pliers on hand for the findings again. If you're using cord that does not have any wax content, you will need to use some sort of glue to finish off the ends. For this purpose, I really like to use hypo cement because it works quite well. If you're using cord with wax content, you should have a good lighter to finish off the ends. I like to number the cords for my tutorials, as this is a good way to keep track of them and can help to avoid confusion. The chord's positions are numbered from left to right. In this example, we have chord positions 1 to 4, not counting the mounting chord at the top. The positions always remain the same, while the chords switch their position as they are knotted. For instance, what is chord 1 before knotting has become chord 4 after knotting, and what was chord 4 has now become chord 1. On this page I have compiled a short list of terms and abbreviations that I like to use during my tutorials to make them easier to follow. I will be abbreviating the name of the knots in the instructions, and you can use this page for reference. Before we begin the actual project, I will quickly take you through the knots we are going to be using during the course of this class. In this class we are going to be using two ways of tying a lark's head knot. The first is used to attach your cords to objects or other cords, and the second is often used to finish off your ends and attaching your cords to a jump ring or another object. This is a lark's head knot. It's often used to mount your cords at the beginning of a project. To tie a lark's head knot, double up your cord and slide the end with a loop under your holding cord from top to bottom. Feed the two loose ends through the loop. And lastly, pull tight. I will show you how to tie double half hitches, which are the main knots used in this tutorial. The main knots you're going to be using in this tutorial are left or right double half hitches. These are also knots which are used in many other macrame projects. To tie a left double half hitch, which is tied from left to right, you will have to attach your working cord, which is the cord you are knotting with, to your holding cord, which is the cord you are knotting to. To do this, feed your working cord underneath your holding cord, then loop it over and feed the tail end of your working cord through the small loop on the left. Once you have done this, pull everything tight. To complete the knot, loop your working cord once more over your holding cord and again feed the tail end through the small loop on the left and finally pull tight. This is a complete left double half hitch. To tie a right double half hitch, the procedure is exactly the same as with a left double half hitch. The only difference here is that the tail end of your working cord will feed through a small loop on the right instead of a small loop on the left. Once you have created the loop and pulled your cord tight, repeat the procedure and remember that your tail end this time will also feed out onto the right. Let's start the project by knotting the separators. Right, to begin, fold in half and mount cords C and D to one of your cords A with a reverse lark's head knot in the following order. Mount the first cord approximately 2 centimeters from the end of cord A. We are going to be knotting along the longer end. Attached cords C and D are your 24 working cords. The long end of cord A is your holding cord. Take your holding cord and attach cord 24 to it with a right double half hitch to begin a row. Knot all of your working cords to your holding cord with right double half hitches to complete a full row. We now need to reverse knotting direction and tie another row towards the right. Double back your holding cord and begin knotting your working cords to it with left double half hitches, and start with cord 1. Use a needle to keep the bend nice and tidy. This also ensures that the rows are of even length. Now repeat the previous steps until you have 5 rows. Your holding cord should terminate to the right. Next, we're going to be knotting the sections. Add 8 odd khaki seed beads to the following cord pairs. The holding cord that we have been using to tie the rows will be set aside as we no longer need it. Tie cord 2 to cord 1 with a left double half hitch. Next, tie cord 3 to cord 2 with a left double half hitch. Tie cord 5 to cord 6 with a right double half hitch. Next, tie cord 4 to cord 5 with another right double half hitch. And finally, to close off the first triangle, attach cord 4 to cord 3 with a left double half hitch. It is important to tie cord 4 to cord 3 with a left double half hitch because the way the knot is tied determines the pattern from this point onwards. Tie cords 8 and 9 to cord 7 with left double half hitches. Tie cords 10 and 11 to cord 12 respectively with right double half hitches. Tie cord 9 to cord 10 with a right double half hitch to close off the second triangle. Note how the 2 overlapping ends point towards each other. This is part of the pattern. Repeat previous steps with cords 19 to 24. To tie off this triangle, attach cord 21 to cord 22 with a right double half hitch. Repeat previous steps with cord 13 and 18, which is towards the center. To tie off this triangle, attach cord 16 to cord 15 with a left double half hitch. You now should have 4 triangles. Can you see the pattern emerging? By tying the last knots in a certain direction, we are also controlling the direction the row is being tied. Tie cord 5 to cord 4 with a left double half hitch. Next, tie cord 8 to cord 9 with a right double half hitch. Add a 6 odd seed bead to cords 6 and 7. Tie cord 6 to cord 5 with a left double half hitch, securing the bead into place. Next, tie cord 7 to cord 8 with a right double half hitch. Close off the triangle by tying cord 7 to cord 6 with a left double half hitch. Apologies for the light cord, I hope you can see what I mean. Next, move over to the right to complete the second large triangle. Tie cord 20 to cord 21 with a right double half hitch. On the other side, tie cord 17 to cord 16 with a left double half hitch. Add a 6 odd green seed bead to cords 18 and 19. Tie cord 19, the one on the right that has the bead on it, to cord 20 with a right double half hitch. Next, tie cord 18, the other cord with a bead on it on the left, to cord 17 with a left double half hitch. And lastly, close off the second large triangle by tying cord 18 to cord 19 with a right double half hitch. Your project should look like the one shown in picture 2. Tie cords 11 to 8 to cord 12 respectively, which will give you a full row of right double half hitches. To form our pattern, tie cord 8 to cord 7 with a left double half hitch to close off the row. To keep the pattern looking symmetrical, we will have to do the same thing on the other side. To do this, tie cords 2 to 7 to cord 1 respectively with left double half hitches. Now moving over to the second triangle, tie cords 14 to 17 to cord 13 respectively with right double half hitches. To close off the row, tie cord 17 to cord 18 with a right double half hitch. Do the same on the right hand side of the second triangle and tie cord 23 to 18 to cord 24 respectively with right double half hitches to create the second row. You now should have two triangles that are mirror images of each other. Next, we're going to concentrate on the centerpiece. Tie cord 9 to cords 8 and 7 respectively with left double half hitches as shown in the pictures below. Repeat the process on the other side and tie cord 16 to cord 17 and 18 respectively with right double half hitches. Add 1 peacock 11-aught seed bead to cords 10 to 15. Tie cords 11 and 10 to cord 12 with right double half hitches. This will secure the 11-aught seed beads in place. Tie cord 11 to cord 12 with a right double half hitch. Add an 11-aught peacock seed bead to cords 10, 11 and 12. Next, tie cord 10 to cord 9 and 8 respectively with a left double half hitch. Tie cord 11 to cords 10 and 9 respectively with a left double half hitch. And lastly, tie cord 12 to cords 11 and 10 respectively with left double half hitches. This will secure the 11-aught seed beads in place and continue the row of double half hitches on the left. Next, tie cords 14 and 15 to cord 13 with left double half hitches. We are going to repeat exactly the same steps as before to mirror the same on the other side. Tie cord 14 to cord 13 with a left double half hitch. Next, tie cord 15 to cord 16 and 17 respectively with right double half hitches to continue the row on the right. Tie cord 14 to cords 15 and 16 respectively with right double half hitches. And finally, tie cord 13 to cords 14 and 15 respectively with right double half hitches. You should now again have a mirror image. Now thread cords 1, 2 and 3 through a 6-aught green seed bead. Next, tie cord 4 to cords 5 and 6 respectively with right double half hitches. Next, tie cords 1, 2 and 3, which is the cords with the bead on it, to cords 4 and 5 respectively. This will secure the bead in place and also create a new triangle towards the bottom of the project. Next, add a 6-aught green seed bead to cords 6 and 7, which are at the center of the new triangle we have just created. Tie cords 5 and 6 to cord 4 with left double half hitches to secure the 6-aught seed bead in place. To be symmetrical, we're going to repeat the same thing on the other side and tie cords 7 and 8 to cord 9 with right double half hitches to secure the other side of the bead in place. Now that we have secured the bead in place, we're going to add some 8 odd khaki seed beads to the following cord pairs as shown below. 1 bead to cords 3 and 4, and 1 bead to cords 9 and 10. To close off the last triangle, tie cord 2 to cord 1 with a right double half hitch. And repeat the same on the right hand side and tie cord 11 to cord 12 with a left double half hitch. We are now going to move over to the right hand side and mirror our steps. Attach cord 21 to cords 20 and 19 respectively with left double half hitches. This is the start of our new triangle. Thread cords 22, 23 and 24 through a 6-odd green seed bead just like you have done on the left. To finish off the triangle, tie cords 22, 23 and 24, the cord with the bead, to cords 21 and 20 respectively with left double half hitches. Thread cords 18 and 19, again the cords at the center of the triangle, through a 6-odd green seed bead. Tie cords 17 and 18 to cord 16 with left double half hitches to secure the left half of the bead in place. Repeat the same on the right hand side and tie cords 19 and 20 to cord 21 with right double half hitches to secure the right hand side of the bead in place. And finally, add an 8-odd khaki seed bead to the following cord pairs. 1 bead to cords 15 and 16 and 1 bead to cords 21 and 22. And as before, we need to finish off the triangle, so tie cord 13 to cord 14 with a right double half hitch, and on the right hand side tie cord 23 to cord 24 with a left double half hitch. Now we've finished our very first section, and we're going to close it off. To do this, take one of your cords B and attach cords 1 to 24 to it with left double half hitches. Be careful when you tie the first knot, it can be just a tiny little bit fiddly. To help you keep the cord in place, I usually use a needle and wrap the cord around it so that it can't really move out of place. The first knot is going to be just that one bit fiddly. Once you have tied the first knot, all the following knots should be easier to make. As before, when we started the bracelet, double back your holding cord, which is cord B, using a pin to keep the corner crisp again, and tie a row of double half hitches in the opposite direction by tying cords 24 to 1 respectively to your holding cord with right double half hitches. And finally, add one more row. Since this is a thinner separator than the first one, we only want to make 3 rows in total. Now set aside cord B as we no longer need it. Now repeat the sections pattern 5 times or until you are satisfied with the length of your bracelet. Remember though that if you want to add length, you will need to start out with longer cords. A good rule of thumb for cord length is to multiply the final length of your bracelet in inches by 8. So for example, for a 10-inch long bracelet, each working cord would be 80 inches long, after having attached them obviously, at the beginning of the project. Although the more knot intensive the project, the more cord length is required. Just really depends on what you are making. A good rule of thumb for cord length is to multiply the final lengths in inches by 8. So if you have, let's say, a 10-inch long bracelet, you would need 80-inch long cords to tie the entire project. But obviously, the more knot intensive the project, the more cord length is required. So if you have a very lacy, light project, it won't use up as much cord as a very tight woven cabandoli project, for instance. So This will also come as you go along, and it's a matter of trial and error. But really, as I've said, a good rule of thumb is multiply your final project length by 8. And that's it. I'm going to show you how to finish off your bracelet. If you flip over your bracelet, this is what it will look like from the back. I'm going to talk you through on how to finish off your bracelet with adhesives or a lighter, just depending on your personal preference. And we're going to do this in the following chapter. Right, there are several methods to finish off a project. I'm going to start with the glue method. You can either use an adhesive such as hypercement or even fray check. Simply add the glue to the ends before trimming off the cords. Then cut the cords as closely as possible to the knots to avoid leaving any unsightly ends sticking out. I quite like using the hypercement because it adds flexibility without making any scrapey ends that stick out and irritate your skin. So it's a very good option if you prefer to use glue. Using the burn method. This is my preferred method, and I like to trim off the ends and then use a light to singe melt the area. Do this only briefly and just enough to seal the trimmed off cord ends. If you burn too much or use the tip of the flame, the area that you are burning turns black and becomes hard, which is quite unsightly and uncomfortable. It's quite scratchy when wearing, so try not to do this with the tip of the flame. Long cord holds the knots very well, so only a little burning will suffice to keep the knots from slipping apart. Next, get your findings ready and attach the jump rings to your bracelet clasp with your pliers. Gently clamp on a ribbon end with a pair of pliers and finally attach your findings, and that's it, all done. Thanks for taking my beaded cuff bracelet class. We have learned how to tie a lark's head knot and a right and left double half hitch. We have also learned how to finish off a project to keep it from unraveling and how to attach a clasp finding. The skills you have learned in this class can be used to create a multitude of different patterns, and I hope you will explore with what we have done today and create many beautiful pieces of your own design.